Coach Rick Hamill's already put out that it will be Bednar and McLeod in the first two games there. You flipped it last week and it worked out. Was that the thinking to stay with it this weekend, or that Christian threw so many pitches and needs the rest?
It's just one guy's rested more than the other. You're going to pitch them both. Might as well pitch them on their most rest. So that's all that came down to.
Up next, we'll go to Tyler Horka.
Yeah, Chris, you've coached in a lot of postseason games at a lot of places. Everyone always talks about, Duty Noble Field and its home field advantage. How does the home field advantage here in Starkville compare to some of those other places, and just how much of an advantage is it? How can you put that into words?
It's a big advantage at certain times. Like I always tell our guys, it's not an advantage until you hit a ball in the gap or you get an inning going or you make something happen. Other teams can come in here and play well also, but you have to do things to get the crowd into it. So once we get into some of those games and we make some things happen, then it gets tougher to play here as the opponent. So it's a lot of fun. My last time I was here in a Super Regional, I felt like it had a huge difference in the weekend, and I'm hoping that's the same this weekend.
Up next, we'll go to John Sokoloff.
Hey, Chris. So what have you kind of really seen from Notre Dame that makes them dangerous? I know they've won about 15 of their last 18, and the numbers in the lineup speak for themselves. But what have you kind of seen from them? And I guess how do they kind of rank among other good teams that you've played this year?
Well, they're at the top of the nation. I mean, they're a top 10 team. They won the ACC by 5 games. A good league. One of the best leagues in the country. They have, they throw a lot of strikes. They really know how to pitch, and they're the number 1 team in the country defensively. So you got some challenges there, just scoring runs and having a really good approach against them. And then their offense is, it's just a great approach-driven offense. I mean, they do a lot of things and put pressure on you, and then they have one of the better hitters in the country there, in Nico Cavadas. So it will have our challenges with us. It's not an easy opponent, but is there an easy opponent still playing this time of year? I just think you're going to play somebody who's good and somebody who's hot, and we kind of got both with Notre Dame. They're really well coached. I've known Link for a long time, and he's done an unbelievable job there at Notre Dame to put together a season like they've had this year.
Let's go to Theo DeRosa next.
Coach, last week in the regional, you faced several teams who had played several games already, and their pitching was kind of depleted. Obviously, yours was as well. But does that change a little bit against a team that had 3 starters go 8, 7, 9 innings last week and has them all fully rested this week?
I don't think trying to win 2 games on a weekend is a little different than not only just having to win 3 last weekend, but it could have, if you fall into the wrong bracket, it could be 5. So you got a little bit of difference there just in the amount of games it takes to win here. So their guys just pitched really good, so that kept them fresh. And our 2 guys pitched good. They got to a lot of pitches. So I think everybody's rested. I think everybody's ready to go. It's our job to make them work a little bit more and have to fight a little bit more on the mound. So I think you'll see that. I think the grind of the game and the heat that we're expecting the next couple of days can factor into that too.
We'll go to Trey Mongeru next.
Yeah, Chris, you hear it in every sport about postseason experience. Obviously, you've been in a super regional advance. You've got a bunch of players on the team that have been through 2 super regionals in advance. Meanwhile, Notre Dame is their first super regional since 2002. Obviously, you still have to play the game, but how much do you think that postseason experience helps you guys?
Well, I think it really helps us with Tanner and Rowdy. I think that's the only 2. After that, the rest of our team is pretty new guys also. We haven't had most of our ball club hasn't been to a regional or super regional. So last week was a big deal for a lot of those young kids. And even though they're sophomores, they, with COVID cutting everything out, a lot of these kids hadn't played there. So, but I think having some leaders like Tanner and Rowdy in that clubhouse to talk about, and we talked about it a little bit today, just how do you approach these games and what our goals are. And obviously our goals are to win, but we try to keep the message on playing great baseball. You start thinking about next week, you'll lose this week. So being able to go out there and play a really good brand of baseball is going to be the key for us.
We'll go to Joe Coleman.
Chris, you mentioned Rowdy. From stepping in as a true freshman back several years ago to, I guess, taking over that role for Jake in center field and leadoff man to just all that he does in the postseason for you guys year after year, it seems like. Can you put into words what Rowdy has meant to this program, and then even behind the scenes, what's Rowdy mean to you and to this team and the success that you guys have had?
Well, he just brings a good energy every day. I really enjoy being around him. He's a just a very upbeat kid. He works really hard. He takes a lot of pride in his game, and I've learned that over the years how much pride he takes in his game. And he's been, it's been slow starts, which we've had to, fight through a little bit, and then it's been great finishes. So that's what we're hoping here too. And just a very special player. He does a lot of things for you. He has the switch hitter piece is huge for us, especially as a manager, because you can match up a little better. The speed piece, and then the fact that, and it's the one quality him and Tanner have that are very similar is they don't back down from anybody. I mean, they'll hit the best in the country. They don't back down. They're never scared, and they learned that as freshmen. They just got thrown to the fire that first year in 18, and it's just they have taken that throughout their whole career. So I've enjoyed him. I tell you that he's a wonderful kid to be around every day, and he's going to be successful in whatever he does because he just brings just a real positive vibe to the ball club all the time. Not as loud as Tanner, or Mule or some of those guys. He's a little bit more of the quiet guy, but at least publicly. But inside of our clubhouse, he's a lot of fun.
We'll go back to Robbie.
Coach, on that same topic, you were talking about the slow starts. It seems like you can count on him having a slow start, but you can also count on him being just really good and almost impossible to get out in the postseason. How is he able to maintain that consistency once he does get started? Because it does seem like he just really struggles at the beginning, but you don't really see him slump the rest of the season. And in the postseason, he's just been so good. How's he able to get going and then keep that every season?
I just think it's probably a little more at bats and finding his swing, and once he's able to find it, he takes off, Or it could just be when we play Auburn, then he plays Auburn, and then he plays really good after that. That's what's kind of been the whole joke in our clubhouse. But I just think it's seeing pitches. I just think he needs, some guys just need to, he carries around two swings, his right hand and his left hand. Everybody else has to get one ready. He has to get two ready, and he spends a lot of time hitting. I mean, he hits more than anybody probably in the program, but it just takes a while to get him going. And then once he gets it going, he finds it. And his competitive side, once we hit this SEC play, that's what takes off and carries his at bats.
We'll go back to Theo.
Coach, you were in Indiana, now you're playing Notre Dame in a super regional. Is there any aspects of that old rivalry that conjures up with you when you see these guys on the schedule?
We used to play, that was one of our big, like our Governor's Cup here we'd play in Indianapolis and play Notre Dame, and they wore the all green unis and we wore the all red, so we looked like the Christmas game. It looked like a Christmas tree game. And it's funny, somebody nationally was asking me about Nico Cavadas and telling me about him, and I said, I've been watching Nico Cavadas since he was a sophomore in high school. So we recruited him when I was at Indiana, and one of our top recruits who ended up signing for over $1 million played with Nico. So they won a state championship. I watched almost every game through the state championship when he was young, and I've kind of watched his career as he's gone on. He's a tremendous player, and some of the other guys too are Indiana kids in that program. But it's a program with a lot of history, and we enjoyed playing every year. It's just they're gonna be really good. It's gonna be a tough weekend. Be a hard-nosed games.
All right, guys, we have time for a couple more. We'll go to Trey up next.
What are the nerves like in the spot, knowing that you're only 2 wins away from Omaha, and how do you kind of compartmentalize that with both yourself and the team?
The one thing I think with our guys, it feels like every weekend you play here, it's just big. You play an SEC weekend, it's big. The regionals are big. It just feels like everything's big here, so I'm usually probably a little antsy before every game that we play. Like I said, you want to keep coaching your team. That's one of the biggest things this time of year. It's a great group of kids, and man, I feel like we can play a lot of baseball left in front of us. So being able to go out there, and we talk about it with our ball club, of being able to control our nerves and having the ability to relax sooner than them and be able to play free. When you can play relaxed in these atmospheres, man, it's a lot of fun, and that's what I'm hoping our guys will be able to do this weekend.
All right, we'll finish with David Murray.
Coach, we talked all season that you stress the team, you play games, you don't play series, you just do it today. This is not a usual series by any stretch of the imagination, but how do you keep the guys focused on it is still just one game each day?
Well, we just spoke. That was the message today is let's just play good baseball. I know it's a boring message, but you can't start thinking about next week. You can't. So you shake your head and get it out of your head and stay focused in the moment and stay focused on getting a guy out or making a play or getting a hit. And we have to play great baseball. That's all this comes down to. And it's a very basic message, but the guys have pretty much bought into it all year long, and it is big. And as you go through the weekend, it gets bigger. But man, being able to stay focused in the moment, be where your feet are. Some of these old phrases that we use all the time is, that's the message to our guys right now, is to stay in the moment.